And hello, welcome to episode 1 of the Unpopular Opinion podcast. I don't know. I guess if you want to call us a spin-off of You, Me, and BTC, but we're hopefully taking that already established audience and exposing them to some new and interesting things. And today, first of all, I'm Ryan Tofil. I'm your host. And our very first guest on our very first he's going to be our only guest on our first episode. That is Bryan Chai.
Nice to be here.
Taking a break from the professional frisbee golf tour to be with us. We were just talking basically about what the contents of this podcast are going to be. And long story short, it's going to be different than the other things on this channel. Basically, we're going to just riff. We're going to give our opinions, sometimes, maybe most of the time, unpopular on pop culture, just the going ons, I guess, in society, and not necessarily bound to one particular subject. And maybe we can find things that we enjoy talking about and our audience enjoys listening to, so we can become a little bit more specific or specialized in the future. But tonight, why don't we start it off with what may have been the biggest sporting event, if you want to call it that, going on yesterday, which was Backlash 2018.
WWE Backlash 2018.
WWE. So I don't know how interested people would be about hearing about individual matches from last night. I don't know how interested I would be in talking about that. I did fall asleep at the end of it. If that gives you any indication on exactly how it went, let's just talk about the state of WWE and professional wrestling in general, and basically what has happened to it, maybe in the last 15 years. And let's hear your perspective on where the company is at, Bryan. And are you more or less ashamed to be a professional wrestling fan right now than you used to be?
I would probably say less so than I used to be. I feel like pro wrestling has kind of entered the mainstream pop culture in a way. I mean, you see WWE coverage on ESPN, Fox Sports, legitimate, quote unquote, legitimate sports sites are covering it too. So that's not really an issue. I will say though that you fell asleep last night watching Backlash, but what you probably missed then was, I think, a pretty indicative of the issues with WWE when in the main event, people were so upset with it that they big chunks of the crowd just stood up and left in the middle of the last match.
I didn't. I don't know if I picked that up. I know as I was drifting off, I heard him, I think, chanting "boring" at Samoa Joe and Roman Reigns, and I don't know, maybe Samoa Joe. He's only been back for a short while now. Maybe wasn't ready to headline a pay-per-view, but even the event leading up to that, like AJ Styles and Nakamura, who might be two of the most in the ring entertaining things that the WWE can throw at you, have now had about their third snoozer in a row. And this is not a dream match. This ended with a double count out. That, it's just stuff like that where these two guys who have had great matches in the past, this is one of the reasons where I'm not as proud as I used to be to say, oh yeah, professional wrestling is a good time. And because I can't imagine somebody on the outside tuning into that and seeing AJ Styles versus Nakamura and end in a double count out because they simultaneously kicked each other in the jewels, and becoming a wrestling fan. That is not cool.
Yeah, a full tilt. If I were introducing pro wrestling to a new fan, I would not show them last night's pay-per-view.
What do you think you would start with?
For a pro wrestling fan, probably, this is going to sound crazy, but I would probably introduce new pro wrestling fans to WWE NXT. It's technically their developmental league, their G League, so to speak. But I think the product, number one, it's only 1 hour show a week as opposed to, 3 hours or 2 hours of Raw and SmackDown. But yeah, WWE NXT, it's on the WWE Network. It's about an hour every Wednesday evening. And it's just tight storytelling, good wrestling. I mean, obviously there's bad bits. That's almost unavoidable, but it's such a tighter product right now than the main roster, which is insane to me.
Yeah, it's man, wrestling is losing its luster. There aren't a whole lot of characters that I am invested in. I don't know if anybody out there listening feels the same way, or I have convinced any of them to tune in from what I've said so far. If I was trying to do that, I would tell you don't watch anything from the last few years.
Yeah,
go maybe. I mean, you have to know who Hulk Hogan is, and you have to know that he was one of the good guys in the sport. And when he turned and he went to the NWO, I think that Bash at the Beach, even just that one match, even just the final 2 minutes of that match where Hulk Hogan comes out and drops a leg on Randy Savage, and Hulk Hogan, who has been the face of professional wrestling, like a good guy for 10, 15 years. This is the same guy that body slammed Andre the Giant, then turned to a bad guy. And that's when wrestling really got hot in America in the late 90s, and both WCW and WWE and ECW, all three promotions were getting over 1 million viewers.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. I don't know exactly what the WWE is doing right now, but I can guarantee you that their competition, if you can call it that, in TNA is not getting up to 1 million viewers.
Oh, TNA is definitely not doing that. I would actually say the second biggest promotion in America is probably Ring of Honor.
Ring of Honor is overtaken. I mean, TNA right now, I mean, they have Tommy Dreamer, Scott Steiner. So
Scott Steiner
are active TNA wrestlers. So I mean, I don't know if I could tell you too many guys in Ring of Honor.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe as we wind down on pro wrestling, I'll leave it at, I think the biggest problem with WWE, you can just look at how they're handling their alleged number one guy, which in this case is the top champion, Brock Lesnar. Dude shows up, I mean, can you imagine LeBron James showing up for every other playoff series? Or it's absurd. And I think it is a bad look, and it makes everyone else look bad because no one can beat him.
Yeah, and maybe it's just because Brock Lesnar kind of has the leverage right now, and he doesn't want to work. He's not really a fan of the sport. I don't think he's been in it for longer than Goldberg was, but Goldberg, even back in the day when he was running train through WCW, he said he didn't really care about pro wrestling. Like he would leave the arena and no longer be a wrestler. He was just doing it for a paycheck. Now Brock Lesnar knows that he can demand $500,000 for an appearance, and the WWE either has to pay him that or not have him there because there's nobody on the roster. I mean, John Cena is progressing to part-time. Triple H is part-time. Undertaker part-time, and there's nobody else on the roster that could carry the flag. They thought it was Roman Reigns, and they have finally admitted it's not, as evidenced by he's now fighting Samoa Joe and barely winning in a very boring match. But also going on this weekend, if we didn't sell you on pro wrestling, the NBA playoffs, and
very exciting time. Love the NBA playoffs.
Yeah, for me, a Cleveland Cavaliers fan, seeing LeBron be able to just will his team past the Indiana Pacers in the first round, and now what he is doing to the Raptors in the second round. The Cavs currently have a 3.5 game lead. I'm not sure exactly what game 4 score is at this moment, but Cavs were ahead last I knew. And LeBron, I think the lack of talent around him this postseason has really put him. The Cavaliers are by 20, as we just see come up onto the screen here. So yeah, that is more than
they're headed for a sweep.
Yeah, more than the 5-point lead they had at halftime. But the lack of talent around LeBron in this playoffs, I think in my mind has made it's no longer debate. He is the greatest player in NBA history.
Ooh, I don't know if I go that far. I'm not a LeBron fan.
Well, I was not a LeBron fan when LeBron left for the Miami Heat, and he left my hometown Cleveland Cavaliers. And I had to watch Mo Williams and an old Baron Davis and Anton Jameson carry that team to 12-win season. I hated LeBron, and I worship Dirk Nowitzki for beating the Heat in that finals. I thought it was the greatest performance I'd ever seen out of any athlete ever. What Dirk did in that finals to single-handedly beat that three-headed monster in Miami. But once LeBron came back to Cleveland, and
all was forgiven.
Yeah, and he, well, it took him winning a championship first, but now I just going back at it and looking at it through a more objective lens. I think that his time in Cleveland the last few years has been the best that he's ever played, better than in Miami because he has not had the team around him that he did in Miami. I don't think that Kyrie was as good as Dwayne Wade was, and I definitely don't think that Kevin Love at this point of his career is doing the things that Chris Bosh was able to do.
Yeah, it's like I said, not a LeBron fan, but I have to admit what he's done this postseason with just spare parts, and it's not a good team. The Cavaliers are not a good team.
No, they're not.
And they are, from the looks of it, they are well on their way to making yet another Eastern Conference Finals.
All right, so who do you think is better than LeBron here? We're going to earn our unpopular opinion name here. And
are we talking all time or current?
Okay, if you don't think he's the best in the league currently, then we've got some real issues.
No, the best player in the league is Kevin Durant.
Oh my gosh. I don't know if you're joking. I think he's joking.
I'm not. Okay, here's the thing. LeBron, yes, he can do everything. Freak of nature, great. The point of the game of basketball is to put the ball in the hoop, and I don't think anyone in the league can do that better than Kevin Durant right now.
What is the point? Okay, that's like at max half the time. And I got a relative from Australia giving me a ring. They're gonna have to wait. I'll tell her to check out the podcast later. That is at max half of the game. Okay, because if you score the ball on offense, you've still got to play defense, and you're not making 100% of your shots. So it's how many shots are you taking? How well can you set up your teammates? Because somebody can create 100 points worth of offense and only score 30 of them. I don't know if Kevin Durant does that. I know that LeBron does that because if you are telling me that Jordan Clarkson and Kyle Korver and Larry Nance are creating their own offense, then you're bonkers.
Oh, Clarkson can. And just full disclosure, I'm not a Warriors homer. My favorite team in the league is the Dallas Mavericks. But that being said, I don't know, man. When the game's on the line, you're down one, you need a bucket. I would take Kevin Durant over LeBron. Yes, he's hit a couple buzzer beaters the last couple of games, but as I always like to point out, there's a big difference between a buzzer beater when the score is tied, because if LeBron misses, it's just overtime, versus if he's down one, because if he misses, that's game over. There's two completely different types of buzzer beaters.
So I now know Kevin Durant buzzer beaters just instantly pop into my head. But if you're talking down, how the one that LeBron made against the Magic,
they were tied, weren't they? I could have
they were down.
They were tied.
They were down. They were losing. They ended up losing that series.
It was the 2009, I believe, Eastern Conference Finals. I'm almost positive LeBron hit the game winner after a tie game. I can never remember LeBron, just with that ice cold, Jordan-esque dagger. I can never remember LeBron with those.
I don't know when was Jordan down in Cleveland when he hit the shot over Elo? I don't know. I
think so, because
I don't think that Jordan was down in the 98 finals.
Oh, against the Jazz.
Against the Jazz.
Oh, I see. That's what you're saying. Okay.
Well, and then there was the one 10 years earlier against Cleveland.
Yeah.
Before they inevitably went and got wrecked by the Pistons.
I mean, I will say LeBron plays the game the right way. I mean, look, I'm not a LeBron fan. I will take LeBron 100 times out of 100 over someone like a Russell Westbrook.
Okay, I do not like Russell Westbrook. He knows I don't like Russell Westbrook. He's just trying to get me off topic. He's playing mind games, hoping I'll just rant about Russell Westbrook and try to forget that he claimed Kevin. Okay, well, what about the finals that Kevin Durant and LeBron were up against each other?
When Kevin Durant was like 20 years old?
But he did have Russell Westbrook and James Harden.
James Harden, who was not a superstar in Oklahoma City. He was a good sixth man. And Russell Westbrook.
Good sixth man. So,
okay, maybe the best sixth man. I think he won sixth man that year. So, okay, great player off the bench. Still, coming off the bench. Russell Westbrook, as we've seen, is not a pure point guard. Them losing. And people forget, yes, it was a 5-game finals when the baby Thunder lost to the Heat.
The baby Thunder.
But those games were close. Like I believe there was maybe one blowout that entire finals. Like those games were close. It belies the 4-1 finals that the record that you see.
Well, I know that they lost, and I know that when Kevin Durant beat LeBron in the finals, he had Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and Steph Curry. With just an insane roster. But I will put LeBron. Let's just can you concede best player in the league to me right now so we can get to the real juicy. Okay. Over the course of their career, you'll at least take LeBron over Kevin Durant.
So far, sure.
Okay,
so far, sure.
LeBron, the best career of anyone currently in the NBA. Now let's put him up against Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, Larry Bird.
We're talking all time now.
All timers. I mean, I guess you could have like Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell in there. That's such a different era. That's really, really hard to compare.
I'm not a fan of comparing. Like people talk about Wilt being one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah,
he was playing against guys who are about a foot and a half shorter than him.
Yeah, they're all like built like me, and I can barely get. They're taking Marlboro breaks in between free throws, and it's just a different time. But I think right about the time Larry Bird and Magic Johnson came into the league.
I think that's a lot of people consider that the beginning of the modern era of the NBA. So
right.
I think that's fair.
Definitely a little bit different style of play, but I think that in the basketball universe, the style of games that were being played are comparable to what's being played today. Whereas, if you're going before the 3-point line was invented, we're barely even playing the same game anymore. So where do you put LeBron all time?
In the pantheon of all time, I would definitely put him ahead of Bird, which I hate to say because I love Larry Bird. But at this point, there's just it's not a comparison, unfortunately. But I would put LeBron ahead of Larry Bird. That's so tough because I think LeBron and Kobe are about the same level. Above them, I put the criminally underrated Tim Duncan, who I think is the greatest big man of all time in NBA history.
Okay.
So I put Duncan ahead of him. Obviously, I put Jordan ahead of him. I put Magic ahead of him. I don't know if I put Shaq ahead of him. People have already forgotten Shaq's apex.
So what you're saying is that if Kobe is on the same level or slightly ahead of LeBron, you're saying Kobe better than Shaq?
No, I'm saying I'm not sure.
You're not sure.
It's a hard one. Because the thing with Shaq is I feel like, obviously Hall of Fame career, great player. But he and Kobe should have won more than 3 championships, and a part of that falls on Kobe too. But that was a diluted NBA.
Should have won more than 3.
Oh yeah, together the Lakers should have won 4 or 5 easily. Look at who they're beating up on. Who's coming out of the East? Jason Kidd, Kerry Kittles.
Okay, and when you've got Jason Kidd, Richard Jefferson, Kenyon Martin, and I don't know who the center on that team would have been. I can
McCullough. That sounds familiar for some reason, but okay. But either way, point being, those are not good teams. Like, yeah, they were fun. Jason Kidd is an awesome player. I'd love to play with Jason Kidd. That's a totally different question. Who'd you want to play with?
Where would you put yourself in relation to LeBron?
Myself?
Yes.
My personal basketball skills?
Yes.
A tick or two behind him.
Okay. A tick or two. I'm telling you what, dude. I think if I was like a starter in the NBA playing like 35 minutes, even at my current schlubby state, dude, you put me on LeBron's team, I think I could get like 8 points a game just from being that wide open. I don't know if I don't think Larry Bird could give me 8 points a game.
Probably not.
I don't. Boy, now I think in the greatest of all time discussion, I think that Jordan gets boosted up a little bit, because I think if you're talking about a diluted NBA, that his second three-peat would be even his first. Like the guys he was beating in the finals were great players in the 80s that were then at the tail end of their careers. I mean, Charles Barkley was probably the best player that they played against. And if you look, just match up the Suns team against that Bulls team, I mean, having Scottie Pippen and John Paxson, who was able to hit some extremely clutch shots there. I don't know. I mean, if was LeBron facing like the caliber of talent in the NBA, like Jordan was not going up against Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green in the finals.
I mean, sure, but earlier in his career, he definitely had some legitimate talent he had to beat. I mean,
when he didn't beat them.
Well, fair enough. I mean, he eventually did. I mean, that was the whole thing. Like Jordan's eventual triumph over the bad boy Pistons.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was some talent then. The issue I feel like is, and I actually kind of agree with you about the diluted period of Jordan's era. There weren't too many great shooting guards. Like Jordan never really had to worry about someone checking him, and he never really had to. I mean, he could shut people down. Don't get me wrong. Jordan was a great defensive player, but I mean,
when he's guarding the other team's second best scorer, because Scottie Pippen was
true. Pippen would lock up, but I mean, just even like straight matchups, like Reggie Miller, old Clyde Drexler. I mean, there was a dearth of shooting guards during Jordan's era, and I do
Dominique Wilkins.
I mean, even he was old by the time Jordan got started rising. He was getting up there in age.
Yeah, Wilkins. He was. I think he played like 95 with the Celtics, and that was like his last real year.
Yeah,
he played a maybe with the Magic. He played 20 games for 1 year after that.
But okay. Anyways, point being, I think Jordan probably gets a bit of an unfair boost as far as the greatest of all time argument goes. But I think that's fair. I would put Jordan up there.
I think greatest of all time, Magic Johnson would have to be above Michael Jordan, because Magic Johnson legitimately played all 5 positions. Like when he played center in the finals during his first go around, and then after he had HIV and came back, he played as a power forward.
Yeah. I mean, sure, he's more versatile, but I mean,
shot over 50% for his career.
But he's not a scorer. I mean, it's great that he can shoot. I mean, okay, look, I know it seems like all I care about is scoring, but that is a very important. Okay, I would love to play with Magic Johnson, but if I were picking a team, if I were like creating a team with a time machine, I would take Jordan over Magic. Even though if I had to play with one of them, I'd probably rather play with Magic. I think that'd be way more fun.
Mm-hmm. I think after seeing what LeBron has done this postseason with the lack of talent around him, honestly, I'll take LeBron. You give me some amazing rebounder. I don't care. It can be DeAndre Jordan, and then the 3 best shooters in NBA history to just stand out on the perimeter when the defense collapses. And LeBron has proved so much to me over this playoff span, especially being a Cavs fan. That makes it very easy for me to put LeBron on a pedestal.
I mean, a lot of people had written the Cavs off after they lost their first game against the Pacers.
Yeah, they were down. Then they were down 2-1 to the Pacers, and it was looking dicey for a bit there.
And now it looks like they're very clearly on the verge of sweeping the Raptors.
Yeah.
But yeah, so if Jordan's my number 1, I'd probably put James. I think James would crack my top 5. I think.
Oh my gosh, no one's gonna take you seriously. James might be in your top 5.
Dude, there's a lot of great NBA. Okay, just off the top, I'll probably take Jordan.
Unbelievable.
I'll probably take Jordan.
Yep.
Duncan.
Oh.
Magic.
All right.
Kobe. And maybe LeBron is the 5th. Maybe he is in the top 5. But, that's 4 guys right there that I would definitely take ahead of LeBron. I don't think it's that outrageous to say that he may or may not crack my top 5.
Tim Duncan?
Yeah. It's not even close.
What? Tim Duncan?
Tim Duncan.
Oh, my gosh, dude.
Tim Duncan is better than Karl Malone, Charles Barkley. Like, he is the best.
I don't care if Tim Duncan's better than Karl Malone. You can say he's better than Karl Malone. I don't know if it's fair to say that he's better than LeBron. Like,
okay, Duncan's basically never lost, or he's always won 50 games a year, virtually. Yes. I mean, with the exception of like a lockout season.
But he has had some really, really good players around him. Where if you look at LeBron, he we'll even say that like Chris Bosh is a Hall of Famer, which I don't know.
I don't think so, but okay, for the sake of argument.
Okay, so we'll say he was playing with one Hall of Famer and an All-Star in Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade. Other than that, he had a bunch of guys like that he made. Like I believe Mario Chalmers even made an All-Star game.
He may have.
And if you think that was for any reason other than him playing with LeBron, then you're crazy. And Tim Duncan, I mean, he playing with guys like David Robinson, Steve Kerr, Kawhi Leonard, Parker, Ginobili, Green, and Robert Horry.
Big shot, Rob.
Yeah.
I don't think that's an indictment against Duncan. Like, I mean, the guy was a two-way force of nature. He could get you 20.
Where did he grow up?
The Virgin Islands.
Yeah. He loved swimming. And then they just happen to have a basketball court by the swimming pool or something.
Something like that. Yeah. I don't think basketball was his first passion.
It wasn't my first passion either, believe it or not.
Don't say.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's that outrageous to say Duncan is ahead of LeBron all time. I mean,
I think that's outrageous. What I also think is outrageous is we had a ton of technical difficulties earlier. We had to switch platforms once or twice, and when we did that, we lost our timer. So I don't know if anyone can help me out on how long we've been recording for. Like 30 minutes. Okay, so I guess we got time to squeeze one more topic in. We were just talking about the NBA playoffs and how LeBron has cemented his legacy above guys like Tim Duncan.
Definitely did not.
But also going on right now is this massive e-tournament, NBA 2K, and let's talk about that a little bit. Maybe not necessarily NBA 2K in general, but just the world of video games. Where do you think that is right now as a medium compared to where it may have been in the future? I'll be honest with you, there are not nearly as many games as or that I'm excited about as I feel like I used to be. I feel maybe like when the PS3 and Xbox 360 were really hitting their stride, it seemed like there was a game a month coming out that I could not wait to see a trailer for, and even just reading a review or a preview would get me a little bit stiff. And these days, man, I'll play the sports games after they're discounted to $15 or $20 after 3 months.
Yeah.
But I mean, what's your take on God of War? You think it's...
Oh, God of War is a great game. I loved it. Probably my game of the year so far. But kind of in a more broader sense, like you brought up, the general state of video games. It does seem like it's a combination of factors. Because I'm with you. Like I, for me, it was probably more maybe like PS2. I loved my PS2.
That I wouldn't be as high on. I think it had an extremely high standard to set after, like the PS2, coming out in early 2000s. Like, I didn't love the PlayStation and N64. I thought graphics transitioned to 3D maybe a little prematurely.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
But the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis era was still fresh enough in my mind where I didn't think that the PS2 was the greatest system ever. By the time the PS3 came around, and I know maybe that's just a factor of my age and what hit its stride when, I was a little more excited for the PS3. I will give the PS2 credit, though, is you could pretty much tell what was going on in every video game in that era, which hadn't necessarily been the case before that. I mean, when the Super Nintendo would try to do things beyond its capabilities, you would end up with stuff that was just like too slow to play and you couldn't really tell it was on the screen.
I mean, like, people love Star Fox, the original Star Fox for the Super Nintendo, but that was not. I don't think that was a good game for the Super Nintendo.
I think that the Super Nintendo is the greatest system ever. I think that Super Mario World is the greatest game ever, and I will argue that a whole heck of a lot more passionately than I would argue anything about LeBron. I care about Super Mario World a lot more than I care about the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Super Mario World isn't even the best Super Mario game.
Well, okay, so first of all, what's your ranking there? Where are you putting that on the...
Number one by country mile is Super Mario Brothers 3 for the NES, the original Nintendo. That, to me, is the pinnacle of 2D platforming.
Okay.
After that, probably Super Mario World. I just, in terms of, are we counting 3D games too, or just the 2D? I mean, they are two very different types of games.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I mean, I think stuff like Super Mario 3D World is in the same genre. I think maybe Super Mario 3D Land is in the same genre, and those things are kind of 3D. I like Super Mario 64 and Super Mario World are two different kinds of games.
Yeah, that's
what
but I mean, okay, let's just, for sake of simplicity, I'm just gonna go straight Mario games. I would put Mario Brothers 3, Mario Galaxy 2, Mario Odyssey, and then probably Super Mario World. Like, if I'm being perfectly honest there.
So that's the excuse me, that's the entire Mario library. Is that including sports games and kart games? And,
not counting any of Mario side.
Well, I don't know if you're calling Super Mario Odyssey and Super Mario Land the same game, or same type of game, then
they're both platforms.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know. Mario World's so easy. Like, that's my big knock against it. It is such an easy game. Well, Mario Brothers 3 is challenging, and I dig that.
It depends on how you're going to play it. I think that part of the reason Super Mario World is an easy game, and hey, if you guys haven't played any of these games that he mentioned, go out and do it. Like,
they're all great games.
These are the things that will make you love video games. And despite the hit or miss nature of today's video games, these are unquestionably fun.
Yeah.
Well, like you're not gonna have a bad time playing this, no matter how good the next Call of Duty is from a technical aspect. Like you might just get shot a bunch and not really love it. You're not going to try to play any of these Super Mario games and have a bad time. I think that and tell the people Super Mario World not easy on your first time through. So
probably not on your first time.
So if you haven't done that yet, go ahead. Highly recommend it. Stuff like that is why I fell in love with video games.
Yeah.
I think Super Mario World might be easy because it controls so well. Like honestly, like you're not going to have what feels like unfair deaths in Super Mario World,
Yeah.
and you can make Mario do whatever you want. In the first Super Mario Brothers, definitely in the second, depending on what character you were. And in the third one, a little bit too. Like I felt like I'm telling the TV, like, no, I jumped there after falling to my death a lot more than I do in Super Mario World. And when I mess up in Super Mario World, I know it's because I messed up.
Maybe. I mean, I think Mario Brothers 3 has very tight controls. Like, I don't think that's an issue with Mario Brothers.
No, I mean, I don't think that it has an issue with it. Like, if I'm reviewing the game, I'm not giving it a thumbs down in the controls category. But I do think that Super Mario World is the best game of all time, especially in the area of how the controls feel. So,
oof, that's a tough one. Best game of all time.
and do you have any other ideas, or maybe just any dark horses for like something that you picked up and it just felt right the way you controlled them? I mean, the Mega Man games, they were so fast paced that they had to feel like that. The early ones.
I love the original Mega Man game, like Mega Man probably 1 through 4, maybe 5. The first 5 Mega Man on the Nintendo were phenomenal games. Definitely better than Sonic. I'm not a Sonic guy.
I don't really love Sonic either. I do respect it. I mean the Genesis outsold Nintendo for a little bit because of marketing, not because of anything to do with how quality their games were.
Well, the Sega does what Nintendo don't. That whole marketing ad.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah. To kind of go back to, we were talking about the general state of video games before we got off on the Mario.
Right. Anyway, play Super Mario World. Don't
definitely.
play. You can play Sega. It won't be as good as Super Mario World. Now he's going to tell you about how video games are doing today.
Well, like I was going to say, so I think a big thing for us, for you and me, because I think we're kind of in the same boat. Number one is our age. You know, I hate to talk about how that I'm not getting any younger, but you know, we grew up just in a time where you know, video games coming out were a big deal. Now there's, you know, a dozen games every week, and probably 10 of them aren't very great. And the other part is also, I think, just social media saturation. Like, I feel like there's some games that you can almost feel like you played before it came out just by watching every, you know, trailer as they drip feed you new information. Like, I'm deliberately avoiding as much of Red Dead Redemption 2 coverage as I possibly can, because that is.
I didn't love the first one.
Oh, you're insane.
Didn't love GTA 4 either. Like GTA 5.
A lot of people didn't like GTA 5. I like GTA 4. Speaking of unpopular opinions, I guess based on what you just said, Red Dead Redemption is the best Rockstar game ever.
I felt like it was way too slow. It was way too hard to shoot things when you weren't in your super mega gun mode.
Really? I had no problems aiming in I don't know.
I do want to say that I played what am I thinking? GTA 5 first. And I was like, you know, I didn't love GTA 4. So when Red Dead Redemption came out, I wasn't, you know, knocking down GameStop's door to pick it up. But after playing GTA 5, I was like, well, let me play what else I can get my hands on from Rockstar. And maybe it was just after the precedent set. I mean, GTA 5 was just like the apex of a representation of what you have, like oversaturated media, of just like desensitized, in your face. Like, you know, it was like just the late WCW where Judy Bagwell on a pole match for nothing is surprising. You know what I mean? Like, who's going to play that and then go out in the street in real life and see something that shocks them after playing GTA 5.
That's very true. I mean, GTA 5 is a great game. But man, just to me, the thing with Red Dead, yes, it wasn't, maybe didn't control as well, didn't play nearly as tight. I mean, GTA 5 does play very well. But to me, Red Dead was all about the setting. Like how many good Western games can you think of?
That's true.
It's great, unique setting. I enjoyed the character. And I guess mild spoiler alert for like a 15-year-old game. That ending, man, that ending to that game is by far the best video game ending I think I've ever experienced.
So I've not made it to the end of Red Dead Redemption. I wouldn't be upset if you did spoil it, but maybe without spoiling it, compare it to The Last of Us, which I did really enjoy, despite being more of a clunky thing. And honestly, I could care less about a story in video games. I'm skipping most cutscenes anyways. Like I just played both of the Halo Wars games, and those I think had an hour plus of cutscenes in both of them, and I watched maybe 3 minutes of it, and still loved the games.
Fair enough. Okay, so I mean, the only way I can compare it to something like Last of Us, I'm just gonna have to go ahead and spoil it. So, end of Red Dead Redemption, the main character John Marsden does everything the government asks him to do. Thinks he's about to go live this free life. You know, now he's out of the government's debt. He goes, meets up with his wife and his son, and then from there, so basically, I mean, the government basically double crosses Marsden. They show up at his front door.
Is this George Bush? George Bush does Marston dirty. Red Dead Redemption 2.
That's the real sequel.
Yeah.
So there's a really cool sequence at the end of the game where all these government agents are huddled around like your front door, and Marsden tells his wife and his son to run away, go away, and he goes out and confronts them. And the game does this like really kind of gut-wrenching thing where it'll set off the that bullet time that you were talking about, where everything slows down.
Right.
Just line up the headshots. So they do that for you, but there's literally there are too many guys. Like, no matter how many guys you kill, Marsden dies at the end.
Has this been like done? Like, we need pro gamers like on YouTube just over and over again on this last scene, like lining up every federal officer.
I don't think it's possible.
Not possible.
It's not think it's possible. So Marsden dies, and I'm like, oh man, that's kind of a depressing ending. But I like that, not everything is a happy ending. But then, so the end credits roll, and I'm like, all right, I just finished an awesome video game. But then there's a little bit more because Marsden's dead. The game picks up. So after the end credits roll, the game picks up about 10 years later, and it's all of a sudden you're in control of his son.
Oh man, I love that in video games where you get a taste of controlling a different character.
Yeah, so like
Crash Bandicoot 3 when you control Coco, The Last of Us where you controlled Ellie.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyways,
but so yeah, at the end of Red Dead Redemption, you're taking I believe his son's name is Jack Marsden, I believe is his name. But yeah, so after John dies, credits roll, and you're in control of like a 18, 19-year-old Jack Marsden, and you're just back in the open world. And at first I thought, oh, like they're just giving me an opportunity to finish out some side quests in a way that makes sense because John clearly dies again. But then there's an unmarked quest where you get to avenge your dad's death.
Really?
And that is like the real final mission of the game. To me, that is just no video game's ever done anything like that.
So when you turn the game back on and you're just exploring the game you've already completed, you're playing as Jack now?
Jack, yep, you're playing as Jack, and there's like a time skip, so small things are different here and there.
Oh, that's cool though. I don't know if you ever played Driver Parallel Lines.
I've never played any of the Driver games though. I missed out on those.
Those were good. Not quite as good as GTA, but those were ones that as a youngster I could convince my mom to buy me. I mean, when I was 10.
I remember I was a sophomore in high school, I think, when GTA Vice City came out, and my parents would not buy it for me. I had to convince I was really tight with my like U.S. history teacher, and I asked him like, "Hey, can you buy me GTA Vice City?" And he totally did it. Like, I mean, I paid him. He didn't buy it for me, but yeah.
So like, I was born in 92. You don't have to give away when you were born, but
a few years before you.
A few years before. I mean, what do you consider of like your era of video game? Mine, even though I was born in 92, I got into video games at such a young age that not everyone had PS1s and N64s yet, and I was all in on Super Nintendo. And to this day, that is like what I judge other games against.
I mean, yeah, I grew up with the Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis. A big thing for me, because I traveled a lot more when I was younger. I was a big proponent of the old brick Game Boy with the green screen. So I played a lot of that growing up. But yeah, just I think I'm not too far off from your era of like growing up with the Super Nintendo.
Okay, that's fair enough. Separate from political beliefs, you ever think it's weird that our president's name is Donald?
Why?
Like, that's just a weird name to be leading an entire country.
Like the most powerful nation in the world.
Yeah, and your name's Donald.
Donald, the Don.
No, not the Don. That's way cooler than Donald.
I mean,
like this name that is most commonly associated with a duck.
That's true.
And this guy is in charge of America.
I mean, is Donald any better or worse than Barack?
Oh, dude. Yeah, dude. He'll hit you with the Barack bottom. The people's elbow. But anyways, that's all I've had for this first episode of Unpopular Opinions, and I thank Bryan very, very much for joining me, and hopefully we can have him back once things get a little bit smoother, and maybe I found my footing a little bit more. Maybe people want to hear from him more than me anyway, so it's pretty possible. But yeah, we'll be sure to have you back in the future, and thank you so much for helping me out on my first endeavor here, and hopefully we can keep it going.
Thanks for having me. It was a blast.
All right, well, we'll talk to you next time. Thank you.